She thought he was just another wealthy stranger passing through her shift, until his wallet fell open, and inside was a photo that shattered everything she thought she knew about her past. Her mother. His silence. One unanswered question. And a truth that had been buried for decades. What secret was he hiding? And why did it take her this long to find out? This is a story about memory, heartbreak, and the kind of love that refuses to stay buried. Hi everyone. Welcome to today's story. Let's get started. The diner was nearly empty as Lily Carter wiped down the counter, her back aching from another slow shift. Rent was due in 2 days, and her tip jar barely had enough to cover a meal. She was used to struggling. Life had never handed her anything easily. Then the door swung open. A tall man in an impeccably tailored suit walked in. Everything about him screamed power and wealth, from his polished leather shoes to the way the hostess scrambled to seat him without delay. When Lily brought him his check, the unexpected happened. His wallet slipped open, and inside, she saw a photo that stopped her heart cold. It was her mother. Young, smiling, frozen in a moment Lily had seen only in an old photo box buried deep in her closet. Her voice trembled. "Sir, why do you have a picture of my mother?" The man looked up slowly. For a moment, his confident demeanor cracked, just slightly. But then he straightened his cuff and replied coolly, "You must be mistaken." But Lily knew exactly what she saw. And she knew from that moment on, she wouldn't rest until she found out the truth. Lily Carter had spent her whole life scraping by. But one glance inside a stranger's wallet was about to unravel everything she thought she knew. The night had started like any other. The clink of coffee cups, the low hum of fluorescent lights, and the ever-present anxiety of not knowing how she'd pay next month's rent. Working the late shift at Marla's diner wasn't glamorous, but it kept her afloat, barely. That was until a sharply dressed man in a navy suit stepped through the front door just before closing. His presence alone seemed to change the temperature in the room. He moved with the certainty of someone who never had to worry about things like overdue bills or second jobs. Lily noticed the glances from the other waitresses as they quietly nudged each other and whispered. He was somebody even if they didn't know who. She took his order, black coffee, steak medium rare, and kept her distance until it was time to deliver the check. That's when it happened. As the man reached into his sleek leather wallet, it slipped slightly in his hand, and a worn photograph slid into view. Lily froze. The image was unmistakable. Her mother. Younger. Healthier. Smiling in a way Lily had rarely seen in real life. It was a photo her mother used to keep tucked away in an old shoebox. One Lily had studied as a child, wondering who had taken it. She barely whispered, "Sir, why do you have a picture of my mother in your wallet?" The man paused, fingers tightening on the edge of the bill. His expression didn't change, not exactly, but something in his eyes flickered. Then just as quickly it was gone. He stood, adjusted his cufflinks and replied smoothly, "You must be mistaken." But Lily wasn't. She knew her mother's face better than she knew her own. As the man turned to leave, something inside her snapped. She chased after him. Out into the cold night, down the cracked sidewalk where a black town car waited at the curb. The driver had already stepped out to open the door, but Lily wasn't letting this man disappear without an answer. "Please," she called, desperation thick in her voice. "Tell me how you knew my mother." The man, calm and composed, glanced back at her with a look that sent a chill up her spine. Calculating. Like he was weighing whether she mattered enough to acknowledge. Finally, he said coldly, "I don't owe you an explanation." Then he ducked into the car, the door shut, and within seconds he was gone, leaving Lily breathless in the dark, her heart hammering in her chest. That night she didn't sleep. She couldn't. Questions spiraled through her mind. Memories of her late mother, the struggles they endured alone, the missing pieces of her childhood that never made sense. Her mom had passed away 5 years ago from a stroke. She had worked long hours as a nurse at the free clinic and rarely spoke of her younger years. No visitors at the funeral. No past to speak of. Just silence. And now this. By sunrise, Lily had a name. Jonathan Whitaker. Billionaire. Real estate mogul. Philanthropist. A man who'd built empires from scratch, or so the media claimed. What wasn't in his press coverage was why he had a picture of Rose Carter tucked in his wallet like a keepsake. She knew what she had to do. The next morning, Lily put on her best blouse, the one without stains, and took the city bus downtown. Whitaker Holdings towered 30 floors above the street, a symbol of success she had only ever glimpsed in glossy magazines. She entered the lobby, her shoes echoing against polished marble floors. The receptionist greeted her with a professional smile, but it faded quickly when Lily said, "I need to speak with Mr. Whitaker. It's personal." "I'm sorry," the woman replied. "Mr. Whitaker doesn't accept walk-ins." Lily wasn't surprised. She also wasn't backing down. As she scanned the lobby, her eyes locked on a young employee holding a coffee and some documents, distracted by his phone. Without thinking, she stepped in beside him. "You forgot to send that file Mr. Whitaker requested," she whispered urgently. "Huh?" The man blinked. "The report. From yesterday," she said with just enough authority. Flustered, he mumbled something and stepped through the security turnstile. Lily followed closely, sliding in behind him just as the gate clicked open. Moments later, she was in the elevator. The numbers climbed: 22, 24, 27, 30. Her pulse was thundering by the time the doors slid open. She stepped into a space bathed in sunlight, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, desks lined with assistants tapping away at laptops. She didn't know what she was going to say, only that she had to be heard. Before anyone could stop her, Jonathan Whitaker himself appeared, stepping out from a corner office. Their eyes met. He didn't look surprised. Not angry. Not confused. Just resigned. "You don't give up, do you?" he asked quietly. Lily's voice trembled, but her resolve didn't waver. "Not when it comes to my mother." Lily Carter had expected anger, denial, maybe even security. What she didn't expect was the truth, and that it would change everything. When Jonathan Whitaker stood in front of her in the sleek, glass-walled corner office of his empire, Lily saw none of the arrogance she'd encountered the night before. No trace of the cold indifference in his tone when he'd dismissed her. His expression now was different, quiet, conflicted, like someone carrying the weight of a past that refused to stay buried. "You just don't give up, do you?" he said softly, hands tucked in his pockets. "Not when it comes to my mother," Lily replied, her voice steadier than she felt. A long silence followed. Then, with a slow nod, Jonathan turned and opened the door to his office wider. "Come in." Lily hesitated, then stepped inside. The room smelled faintly of leather and pine. The walls were lined with books, some business titles, others classics worn with age. On his desk sat only a framed photo and a black fountain pen. Nothing extravagant but precise. Like the man himself. Jonathan moved behind the desk, leaned against it, and studied her carefully. "You want to know why I had that photograph?" "I need to know," Lily answered. "I've lived my whole life believing I knew who my mother was. Now I don't know what to believe." He nodded slowly, then reached into his inner coat pocket. From it, he pulled the same weathered photograph she had seen in the diner. Her mother's smile was the same, gentle, luminous, but as he turned it in his hands, Lily noticed something new. A torn edge, as if it had once been part of a larger picture. Jonathan followed her gaze. "There was someone else in it," he said quietly. Lily's eyes locked on his. "Who?" He looked down at the photo before answering. "Me." For a moment she couldn't breathe. The air in the room seemed thinner. "That doesn't make sense," she whispered. But it did. Somewhere deep in her chest, it made perfect, terrifying sense. "I loved your mother," Jonathan said, his voice lower now, more fragile. "Her name was Rose. We met when I was just starting out. Before the money. Before the boardrooms. She was working part-time at a community clinic, and I was a nobody with $1,000 dream and a beat-up truck. But she believed in me." Lily's knees wobbled. She reached for the back of a nearby chair and sat down slowly. "She never mentioned you," she said. "She wouldn't have," he replied. "Because I broke her heart." Jonathan's eyes drifted to the window as he spoke. "My family, old money, rigid expectations, never approved of her. They said she wasn't our kind. They threatened to cut me off. And like a coward I caved. I chose my ambition over her." Lily felt something hot rise in her throat. "You left her." "I did," he said, not hiding from it. "And I've regretted it every day since." She gripped the arms of the chair. So why keep her photo in your wallet? Why carry a memory you walked away from? His voice cracked. Because it's the only thing I have left of her. I tried to find her, years later once I'd made it. But she was gone. Moved. Changed her name. I didn't know about you. He stepped around the desk, pulled out a small drawer, and removed an old manila envelope. Inside was another photograph, the original uncut version. In it, Rose smiled brightly with a younger Jonathan at her side, his arm around her, both of them laughing. Lily stared at the image. Her mother looked so full of life. And the man beside her wasn't the powerful executive from the papers. He was young, vulnerable, deeply in love. She blinked back tears. Why now? Because I saw you, he said. That night at the diner. The way you moved, the way you looked at the world, it was like seeing her again. I didn't know for sure until you said her name. Lily's chest ached. She died 5 years ago. Stroke. She never said anything. Never told me who my father was. Jonathan swallowed hard. She was protecting you. From me. From the life I chose. The room was quiet, filled only with the hum of the city below. Lily looked down at the photo in her hand. So what now? You think you can just appear and fix everything with money? No, he said, stepping closer. I don't expect forgiveness. I only want a chance to know the daughter I never got to raise. Lily shook her head slowly, emotions swirling too fast to sort. I don't know if I can give you that, she whispered. He nodded. I understand. He reached into his pocket one last time and handed her a small velvet box. Your mother gave me this before she left. Told me to give it to you if the day ever came. Lily opened it. Inside was a silver necklace, simple and elegant. On the pendant were 3 engraved words. Forgive. Love. Begin. Her breath caught in her throat. And for the first time she truly felt her mother's presence again. Guiding her gently. Maybe this wasn't the end of something. Maybe it was the beginning. She had spent her life carrying the weight of a missing name. Now the truth stood in front of her. Aching, human, and asking for a second chance. Lily Carter sat quietly in the same chair where just minutes ago her world had turned upside down. Across from her stood Jonathan Whitaker, a man the media celebrated as one of the most powerful CEOs in the country. But in this moment he wasn't a business titan. He was a man filled with quiet remorse, and a father she never knew she had. The velvet box sat open on the desk between them. The silver necklace inside shimmered under the afternoon sunlight pouring in through the floor-to-ceiling windows. 3 words engraved in delicate script seemed to echo louder than anything Jonathan had said. Forgive. Love. Begin. Lily ran her fingers over the pendant, tears brimming in her eyes. She really gave this to you? Jonathan nodded. Right before she disappeared from my life. She said, if you ever find her, and if she's strong enough to listen, give this to her. Her throat tightened. So she knew you might come looking. She did, he said softly. But she also knew I might be too late. The silence that followed wasn't heavy, it was sacred. It was filled with all the things Lily had longed to hear as a child but never dared to ask her mother. The whys, the how comes. The ache of birthday candles blown out without a father's voice cheering in the background. Lily stood and paced slowly to the window, looking out over the skyline. The city felt massive from this height. Every tiny person down below rushing through their day. And here she was, on the 30th floor of a building owned by the man who helped give her life, and nearly missed all of it. I grew up thinking she was just tired, Lily said quietly. She worked herself to the bone. She didn't talk much about her past. She was good to me, but there was always this sadness. Like a part of her was somewhere else. She loved you fiercely, Jonathan replied. She told me once, back when we were young, that if she ever had a daughter, she'd raise her to be strong enough to stand alone. Lily turned to face him. She did. But she shouldn't have had to. The words hung in the air, both sharp and true. Jonathan took a breath. You're right. I failed her. And I failed you. I can't go back and fix that. But I can be here now. If you'll let me. Lily studied him. Not the man from the business articles, but the man who had aged behind regret. The lines on his face told a story, and for once it was a story not told to cameras or shareholders, but to her. I want to hate you, she admitted. I'd understand if you did. But I don't. Not completely. Because deep down, her voice cracked, a part of me always hoped you'd come. Jonathan blinked rapidly, his stoic demeanor faltering for the first time. He nodded slowly. Then maybe this is our chance. She looked down at the necklace again. Forgive. Love. Begin. They weren't just words, they were instructions. Lily walked back to the desk and gently closed the velvet box. I don't know what this means yet. I don't know how to fit you into my life. You don't have to, Jonathan said. You don't owe me anything. She looked at him. But maybe I owe it to myself to at least try. He let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Then slowly he reached into the drawer and pulled out a worn photo album. Your mother gave this to me too. It's our story. The parts one never got to tell you. He slid it toward her, and Lily placed her hand over it gently. The leather cover was cracked, the edges faded, but inside, it held memories she never knew existed. She looked up at Jonathan. Okay, she said softly. Let's start there. He nodded. Not as a billionaire. Not as a man trying to fix the past. But as a father. And as Lily opened that album, both of them stepped tentatively, hopefully, into the first page of something new. Some truths hurt. Others heal. And some open a door you never knew you needed. Weeks had passed since Lily Carter first walked into Jonathan Whitaker's office, heart pounding, armed with nothing but questions and a photograph. That day had changed everything. The truth she discovered, that the man standing before her was her father, had left her stunned, torn between grief for what could have been and hope for what still might be. Now as autumn began to settle over the city and leaves danced across the sidewalks like old memories set free, Lily found herself standing at the gates of Rosewood Gardens, a quiet cemetery on the edge of town. She hadn't been back since the funeral. She had always come up with reasons, too busy, too tired, too painful. But today felt different. In her hands she carried two things: the silver necklace her mother had left behind, and the photo album Jonathan had given her. She walked slowly along the gravel path until she reached the modest headstone. Rose Carter, 1963 to 2018. Beloved mother. Fierce spirit. Gentle heart. Lily knelt and placed the necklace at the base of the stone. I finally met him, she whispered. And you were right, Mom. He wasn't ready back then. But maybe he is now. Tears welled in her eyes, not of sorrow but release. The past could not be rewritten. But maybe, just maybe, it could be redeemed. That afternoon, Lily met Jonathan at a quiet cafe tucked between two brownstone buildings. No suits, no briefcases. Just a father and daughter sitting down like strangers trying to piece together a shared history. I visited her today, Lily said gently, stirring her coffee. Jonathan nodded, his voice low. I wish I could have said goodbye. She didn't hate you, Lily added after a pause. She just didn't know how to let you back in. He looked up, eyes glistening. That's fair. I didn't deserve forgiveness. But I'm grateful for the chance you're giving me now. They spent hours talking, not about wealth or success or board meetings, but about the little things. Lily told him about her mother's terrible singing voice, how she'd dance in the kitchen with flour on her nose. Jonathan shared how Rose used to tuck notes in his coat pocket before meetings, always signed, yours no matter what. That evening, as they stepped outside into the golden light of sunset, Jonathan pulled a small envelope from his coat. There's one more thing I want you to have, he said, handing it to her. Lily opened it, revealing a single sheet of paper, legal, formal-looking. What is this? My new will, he said. I've named you as my heir. Not because of guilt. Not to buy anything. But because you're my daughter, and you deserve what I should have given you all along. A future with choice. Lily stared at the document, overwhelmed. Jonathan, I never asked for this. I know, he replied. That's what makes you worthy of it. A lump formed in her throat. I don't want your money. Then don't take it for you. Take it for every version of yourself that had to go without. Take it to build something your mother would have been proud of. She looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time didn't see the stranger who had abandoned her mother, but a man trying desperately to repair what was left. I'm not ready to call you Dad, she said quietly. He smiled, the kind that held pain and hope in equal measure. "I'll wait as long as it takes." They parted with a hug. Not tight, not perfect, but real. And that night, back in her tiny apartment, Lily sat at her table and opened the old photo album again. She traced the faces with her fingertips, her young mother vibrant and bold, a younger Jonathan unsure but smiling, and empty pages still waiting to be filled. She picked up a pen. On the first blank page she wrote, "The truth broke me open." But in the space where the pain lived, love walked in. And beneath it, she placed a new photo. It was just the two of them taken earlier that day. Smiling, trying, beginning. The words were small, engraved in silver, but they held the weight of everything she'd been searching for. Lily sat alone in her apartment, the velvet box resting gently in her palm. The city buzzed beyond her window, but inside time stood still. She opened the lid one more time and looked at the necklace her mother had left behind. The pendant gleamed softly under the light, engraved with 3 simple words: forgive, love, begin. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a message, a blessing, a key. Her mother had never spoken about the pain, the heartbreak, the man she once loved. But she had left this, knowing that one day her daughter would need the strength to let go of the past, accept the truth, and open her heart to something new. Lily closed her eyes. She wasn't sure how to rebuild a relationship with the father she had just met. But she knew she wouldn't let the wounds define her anymore. She reached for her phone, took a deep breath, and texted him. "Let's talk again soon." Sometimes, healing doesn't begin with answers. It begins with courage. The courage to face pain, to forgive without forgetting, and to believe that love is still possible, even after everything. If this story moved you, drop a comment below about someone who gave you hope when you needed it most. And don't forget to subscribe, because your next story might be the one that changes everything.